It speaks volumes about fandoms when the majority of women in that fandom find themselves under attack by rabid fans. You know, let's take it back to years ago. You know, when a lot of people are younger, they're like, oh, I wish women weren't into the same stuff I'm into. I wish they were into comics or Star Wars or video games and all this stuff I'm into, right? And then a couple years down the road, now women are dominating these aspects, really. They're in video games, they're playing video games, they're headlining movies. They're pretty much everywhere you look, starring in comic book roles, taking the forefront of comic books. Specifically, Star Wars as well has had a big transitional period to including more women. And an interesting study recently found that not just among Star Wars, but also pretty much all comic books and everywhere they look, if a woman is included in this fandom and usually responds to something controversial, she gets hated. She gets called out for being fake. She gets insulted because she's a woman. And worse yet, they use many derogatory terms to talk about them and put them down and say that this isn't a woman's playground, if you will, right? Because they're not real nerds, they're just women. You know, it kind of boggles my mind, right? So, a lot of these dudes, they're sitting at home and they want a woman in their life, but they can't accept a woman in a lead role in a film or a comic book, or even interact with one without attacking her if she has a different opinion. So doesn't that seem a little weird? Now obviously we're talking about a bubble that was conducted with a study, right? So there's like the Twitter, Facebook interaction, and that's like what you see doesn't necessarily represent everything. And as many of you know, I travel to plenty of comic conventions, I do charity work and stuff, and I see plenty of women there and everything is fine. There's of course a few bad instances and bad apples that get around and they get a bad rep of how they treat the women, but where isn't there at this point, right? But it just kind of boggles my mind that this is the stance that a lot of fandoms have taken. And specifically one study was done on Star Wars, and it said that it's the worst there. I don't get it. You know, I just really don't get it. You're talking about 30 to 40-year-old males, which were primarily the case of the study, who are just outright insulting females that are 25 years old or younger for daring to find a connection in someone like Rey. Doesn't that seem weird to you guys? Doesn't something seem a little bit off? I mean, if you need a 40-year-old dude, 50-year-old, 60-year-old dude to look up to, Luke is still there. You still have your classic movies, but women in media are finally getting representation. So shouldn't we, like, I don't know, accept them? Just a thought.